Tim, because we've had so many mid-season retirements this year. We've had David Schwartz, we've had Tony Lockett, of course, we've had...
Lockett, you can understand.
Wayne
Schwass from Sydney. Thank you, Tim. But interesting too, the way the two men went out of the game. I think I was surprised, and I'll ask Matthew about it when we go to him in a minute, about he's chosen to be very honest about the fact that the retirement has come against his will. He felt he still had another year to go. And whereas Tony Liberatore, who in fairness has been on one-year contracts for the last 6 years, said his body simply gave up. I think in a PR sense, the Western Bulldogs retirement was perhaps handled a bit better than the Richmond one, and I think that's probably symbolic of the way the Tigers season is going at the moment. Every week there seems to be some drama.
Well, Kim, we've got a lot to talk to you about, but before we do, just a question on why are we seeing so many players now retiring mid-season?
Well, I think that probably the clubs are saying, well, if in Richmond's case, they're not going to make the final, so they may be saying to Matthew, look, we want to play another young player or two in the last sort of 4 or 5 games.
I think it was Matthew's call, though.
Matthew's picked the game, thank you, against Richmond. It's going to be great on Friday night.
His timing's
thanks a lot,
impeccable.
Matthew. Your timing's fantastic. It's wonderful to have you in here, and I hope you get home safe tonight.
On the subject of timing, what did you think of Tony Shaw's comments about Dean Rioli at the weekend, given that that was probably Dean Rioli's best game of the season?
Probably nearly unforgivable, I'd say, you know. Personally, I think that you got no right to really... And I think Tony probably realises that himself. You know, he's probably just... well, you know, you make a comment that you regret. I've done it myself. And I'd say that... look, he's probably also from an overall point of view of saying that, you know, Dean should be more professional in losing weight. That's what he's basically said today, but
you do have a record, don't you, of treating a lot of players differently. Yeah. You treated Tim differently when he came back from retirement. You treated Dean Solomon differently. You let him go overseas. Dean Rioli, you've treated differently because he's had some pretty savage personal problems, I gather. You treated Dean Wallace differently. Do you treat Dean Rioli differently because he's an Aboriginal, as Tony Shaw
Not really.
suggested?
I mean, what a lot of people didn't realise is Dean Rioli went home and to a funeral. And you don't have to explain every reason why you really treat people differently. I mean, as I mentioned in the paper, I mean, I treated Van der Haar differently because Van der Haar was different.
He's looking at legal action, Dean Rioli.
Is he?
Is he within his rights to do that?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but look...
just while you think, Kevin, I think we have got Tony Shaw's comments. We have got, well, I'll give you time, OK? We've got Tony Shaw's comments from an interview on 3AW at the weekend.
The way that Dean Rioli looks now when he walks out on that football field, to keep playing him is telling his teammates the wrong message. Now, I think he's hid behind his Aboriginality too much, and I think that the thing about, all right, he's had problems at home, that's OK, that can impact you, but it doesn't make you turn your body, and I'll say it as politely as I can, like a fat pig.
Is that the end of it?
Oh, I don't think you'll see the end of that, no. That's the first time I've heard it, to be honest.
Is it worse than you thought it was?
Yeah, it probably was. I thought it might have had a little bit of movement in different questions from people that sometimes make a comment, but that's just straight down the barrel. And
so where do you go now? What do you do now as a club?
Well, I mean, it's up to Dean. It's a personal issue with him from a point of view of Tony, I would think.
What have you said to Dean?
I haven't spoken to Dean about it.
You haven't mentioned it to him?
Well, it only happened last night, and today's my day off virtually, so I haven't even discussed it with him.
Well, you spoke about it yesterday at training, though. Did you speak?
Not to him.
Oh, OK.
No. We're going to try and win a game this week. And now
I can't believe you haven't spoken to Dean Rioli about this.
Well, I mean, if I want to sit with Dean Rioli, I'll sit down and talk to him about issues and keep them to ourselves.
Another issue that we don't want you to keep to yourself, is this the end of an era?
Oh, no, I think that it's probably definitely a situation where a lot of people... look, I know that, yeah, well, that was an article...
Trevor Grant wrote this article at the weekend in the Herald Sun.
Look, Trevor's... look, he's not a bad writer, but, you know, I don't know whether he's... I haven't seen him at Essendon for... I wouldn't have seen Trevor Grant at Essendon for a year.
But that doesn't mean to say that he's not watching Essendon.
No, well, but I haven't seen him at a game. You wouldn't know. But that's probably a lot of people's opinions anyway.
Those guys he names, sorry, Karen, those guys he names as passengers, are you concerned about their form? Did he get it pretty right with the guys who were down in form?
I'd say that the players would like to be playing better. There's no doubt about that. And I think there are some reasons why they probably could be. And I think that, you know, when I look at the team at the moment, and you know, we weren't terrible over in Western Australia. I mean, you know, we probably held West Coast to 13 goals. That's their lowest score in Perth this year. But I'd have to say we would like to be playing better, and we like some of those players to be playing better. But it's not only 6; it's a whole team.
Trevor also implied, sorry, it's difficult interviewing the interviewee, isn't it? Or the other way around, that you'd perhaps, did he sort of suggest you'd taken your eye off the ball a bit in the pre-season? You were more interested in Blue Diamond winners than Premiership winners?
Did he write that, did he?
Well, that was the first few parts of the story.
He's probably, I think he was at golf then. And he does golf.
You didn't like it, did you?
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't know that, so I don't read him that much, but I'll go and read the article now, because I honestly haven't read it.
Can you win a flag from this position?
It would be very difficult, because history said it's difficult, from 10th.
Could you win
But if we get in the 8, which we're hopefully aiming to still, 6 weeks to go, I mean, the actual real issue is that there's still 6 weeks to go, and everybody's saying Essendon's finished, and an end of an era. I mean, you know, we've probably had, there'd probably be 8 or 9 players wouldn't have played in that side that played in 2000. So there is a part of that side that's never going to play again, naturally.
Could you win a flag without Dustin Fletcher?
Look, he's a very good player.
Do you realise how important he is to Essendon on statistical information?
Well, look,
and data? Here we go. This is the Fletcher factor. Without Fletcher, wins 61.2%. Oh, sorry, 6.5 wins. Without Hurd, 29. Without Lloyd, 10. Losses, the percentage, sorry, at the bottom there, 43.3%, 78, 76. I mean, on that evidence, he's almost twice as important as either Hurd or Lloyd is to the side.
Well, a lot of people, look, a lot of the clubs try to get him out of full-back. I mean, he won our best and fairest in a premiership year at full-back, which is, you know, very unusual. He's a fantastic player. He's probably in our top 3 or 4. I think a lot of people forget about fullbacks. I think it's great to see Silvani become a great player at fullback and left there most of his career, and I think Fletcher's right in the ballpark. I think he's the best fullback in Australia, and he's an all-Australian player.
Well, another fellow who's been an outstanding player over a long period of time is Matthew Knights, and he joins us now on what has been, no doubt, Matthew, and welcome to Talking Footy. It's been an emotional day for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been difficult at times, and probably the biggest thing from my point of view was speaking to the players and the staff of the Richmond Football Club, the Richmond family, this morning, and I spoke to them for a 15-minute period, and it's one of the harder things I've done in footy.
I couldn't help but notice the contrast between Libba's retirement and your retirement. He seemed to be quite comfortable with going out of football, but you're obviously not as comfortable with the decision.
No, me and Danny have spoke about this issue, and Danny's got an opinion on it, and I disagree with his opinion, and I've got an opinion, but at the end of the day, Danny's the coach of the Richmond Football Club at the moment and looking forward to be on next year. And the reality is that decision's been made, and even if I disagree with it, which I do, we've both got our own opinions. But in saying that, there's no bitterness from my point of view towards Danny Frawley or the Richmond Football Club, because as far as I'm concerned, the relationship between myself and the footy club has been terrific over a 15-year period. And I know, and what sits comfortable with me is I can walk back in next week with my chin up and my head held high, knowing that I've done everything I possibly can physically and mentally to achieve the goals down there.
Did you think about the consequences of making clear your dissatisfaction? Because Richmond fans love you, and you're going out on a home game. I reckon there could be some disenchanted Richmond supporters who get maybe even boycott the club for a few weeks because of what's happened, particularly now you've let them know that you didn't want to go.
I don't think it's an issue. I've always believed in just being honest and upfront, and I'm not going to sit there and say that I agree with the decision if I don't. And as I said, for the future of the Richmond Football Club, Danny believes he's making the best decision, and that's Danny's prerogative. And if Danny and the football club have terrific success next year, well, I think that'd be fantastic.
Do you think you'll put yourself in the draft?
Haven't even thought of that yet, Kevin.
Could you possibly, if you did think about it?
It's the last thing that... and all I've been concerned about this week is what's happening this week, and Friday night for myself and my family and the people who have supported me, and I really haven't even thought that far ahead.
You love Richmond, don't you?
Yeah, I've got a deep affiliation and love of the club, and I spoke today about the people, Tony Jewell, Dale Waitman, Chris Bradshaw, the club doctor, and even Ian Robinson, a long-time trainer. And to them people mean the most to me is because they're Richmond people and they'd rather look after the Richmond Football Club's backyard than their own. And I love people that think strongly about the place and the organisation they're at. So
is one of the problems, and clearly the club is going through a major problem at the moment, that there are not Richmond people running the club?
I think, and I said earlier today, that one thing, and I don't like getting involved in the politics side of the club and the administration side, but the strong Richmond characters, if we could get back in the organisation or in the club in some capacity, can only be extremely beneficial from my point of view.
Who would they be? Like, who would those sort of people be, do you think? Like, is there one or two that you think could be welcome back and great people for the club?
Oh, I mean, I've obviously got thoughts of people, no one in particular, but just strong Richmond characters that have a real presence about them and have got a real feeling for the footy club.
And Mark Brayshaw's not a Richmond person, he came from other clubs. Clinton Casey was never a visibly Richmond person. Danny Frawley is clearly... All these people are very much trying to be Richmond people, but you obviously have some disenchantment with that leadership trio.
No, I don't believe that's the case, because I believe you can go to a club and form a tradition and have a real impact at the club, even if you've come from somewhere else. I firmly believe that. And as I said, if Danny Frawley has success with the Richmond Football Club next year, I would think that's terrific, you know, because what it's about, it's a Richmond Football Club being successful and being up at the top of the tree.
Well, look, mate, you're really not the only 250-game player that retired during the year, I can assure you. And the year after I retired and never played footy again, the Richmond Footy Club won a premiership by the greatest ever margin in the history of the game at that time. So, happens to everyone.
It does.
You talked about impeccable timing before, didn't you? Matthew, can I just ask you a question about, you talked about your love for Richmond. Matthew Richardson, does he have the same love for the Richmond Football Club, do you believe?
I believe he does, in a very strong way. And I believe how Matthew Richardson goes about the rest of his footy career at Richmond is entirely up to himself.
Should he stay, Matthew?
I believe he should stay. And he's a great ambassador for the club. And Matthew Richardson clearly wants to stay at the Richmond Football Club.
Will he stay?
Well, I'm not sure about that. That's the club's decision.
In your farewell comments today, did you you thank those people, and obviously Tony Jewell has been an enormous partner of yours, and you didn't mention Danny in your thanks? Was that deliberate?
No, not deliberate. And when I spoke to the players and the staff, I certainly mentioned a lot of people, and Danny was mentioned in that scenario, in that in-house meeting with the players and the staff. But I suppose I mentioned Tony in particular because he sat in my lounge room at the end of 1987 and ate my mum's scones and jam and cream and got it all through his goatee and moustache, and I'm not sure what he was looking...
You never forgot that picture, did you?
Oh, I never forgot that picture, and...
Not a pretty one.
I'm forever grateful for him taking the long drive to Mildura and inviting me down.
You look back at Tigerland and leave Danny out of it because he's the coach. It's probably in this situation the coach of the day. But you've had a lot of coaches. Who's been your best coach? Or one of them, or two of them, you know?
Probably looking back at a proud moment was when the club was on its knees in the Save Our Skins campaign, and I recall Neville Crowe and Kevin Bartlett, Terry Grigg counting coins on Sunday morning after a Saturday game to keep the club alive. And I look back on that and I think KB didn't have the resources on and off the field, but the positive life he put across to us as young players, myself, Tony Free, Craig Lambert, we were never in doubt that the club was going to stay alive. And probably, if I had to choose a number one coach, would John Northey, because I had a great affiliation with him as a player and as a person, and he really got the best out of a group and a team of individuals that he combined them.
Matty, have you spoken to anyone who's retired recently? Do you know what's out there? Do you know what it's like?
Yeah, I've had a few chats with Paul Broderick this year and Benny Gale, close friends of mine, and they have certainly stood me in good stead with direction and support this year. Both are very level-headed individuals, and they've certainly played a part this year, so I certainly have touched
Will you
base.
settle with Libba?
Will I settle with Libba?
Yeah.
Well...
Yes or no?
They...
Put it on the table tonight.
Well, I've been on some interviews with him earlier tonight, and they've been running some conferences down the phone, and we've both been there. And as far as I'm concerned, the incident with Tony Liberatore was an incident that occurred, and it's dog eat dog out there. And once you're on the field, we've been tremendous rivals, and we've had a lot of great clashes. But as far as the incident goes, the tribunal dealt with that, and as far as I was concerned, I was moving on after that.
Don't end up grumpy old men.
Matthew, I know it's been a really emotional day. We really are pleased that you've been able to come in here and Talking Footy tonight and share some of those thoughts about your career with us.
Thank you
we
very
wish you
much.
best at the weekend. I know Kevin wishes you all the best on Friday night in
I
particular.
look forward to seeing
Tag
you
you
Friday
with
night.
James Heard.
That'd be interesting.
Thanks to Matty Knights. And coming up
Thanks,
after the
Matthew.
break, Eagles coach John Worsfold.
Tuesday night, we're talking footy.
Seven's coverage of the 2002 Commonwealth Games is brought to you by our telecom.